Calloway, Democratic strategist and founder of the National Voter Protection Action Fund, Susan DelPercio, Republican strategist and MSNBC political analyst, and David Jolly, former congressman from Florida and an MSNBC political contributor. So, Don, we'll start with you. Trump told Fox News this week he has made a decision on whether he's going to run in 2024. He didn't exactly say which way he was leaning, but he did allude to the country needing him to re-engage in this battle. So could these potential legal troubles throw a wrench in that?
No, unless Donald Trump is in jail, he's going to be running for president. It's my belief. Of course, I'm not a Republican insider and certainly not a Trump insider. But I think that there's a couple of things going on here. As Susan and David point out on this show every week, this is all part of a grift in which he needs to continue to raise money. He needs to keep his name in the public eye. And so to pay for this extraordinarily amount of jeopardy, legal jeopardy that he's in. So that's part of it here. He has to keep raising money. But also, number two is nobody can beat him. So he certainly might continue to try to appear in Republican circles as an outlier, and other Republicans may try to paint him as somewhere where they do not see the future of the party and a place they don't want to go. But nobody else has the numbers to beat him. And I think that reasonable candidates like a Kristi Noem or even the former governor of South Carolina might not step up to the plate if he runs, because they know that numerically he's unbeatable right now in a primary.
Well, Susan, from NBC News correspondent Ali Vitale is reporting, the people who go to these rallies, they want to hear the former president's so-called greatest hits. They want to hear him talk about the big lie, and they want to hear him tease a 2024 run. Do you think they would change their minds if the former president were to get into further legal trouble?
The people at those rallies? Absolutely not. They'd probably, send him lots of files to get out of jail. He has those people. But what he doesn't have is, I appreciate what Don's saying right now, where the former president is, but time will continue to wear away at Donald Trump. These legal problems may also force him to eventually have to stop these rallies, because the more he opens up his mouth, the more incriminating the more often he incriminates himself. For example, last night, Lindsay, he said, "Oh, it's just about fringe benefits." Did you notice he didn't say, "Oh, their lawsuit, their charges against my company are false"? Mm-hmm. He just didn't like what he was being charged with. So we'll see.
Let's listen to some of that, shall we? This is how Trump addressed the indictment against his organization and CFO last night.
They go after good, hardworking people for not paying taxes on a company car. Company car. You didn't pay tax on the car or a company apartment. You used an apartment because you need an apartment because you have to travel too far where your house is. You didn't pay tax. Or education for your grandchildren. I don't even know. Do you have to? But does anybody know the answer to that stuff?
David, I think you were an attorney in a past life. Do you know the answer?
And a business owner about 5 times over. Anybody who operates a business knows that the employee must pay taxes on fringe benefits, on housing, on cars, on education expenses. All of those create a tax liability for the employee, but they also create a tax obligation for the employer. And I think importantly, what we've seen in the indictment is prosecutors are alleging a pattern, and they are alleging intent. The truth is, millions of Americans, probably myself as well, often make mistakes on our taxes. And so Donald Trump is trying to suggest that, hey, maybe it's a mistake. Maybe they're overzealous prosecutors. Prosecutors don't charge unless they know that they can prove a pattern of intent to defraud and a pattern to evade. That's what the Trump organization has been charged with. It matters not what Donald Trump riffs at a Sarasota rally. What matters is what's presented in a courtroom. And I think the Trump organization is in a lot of trouble right now.
Well, David, then do you think Alan Weisselberg is sitting at home saying, please stop riffing?
Yeah, look, I think the Michael Cohen example is perfect for Weisselberg, which is Weisselberg's on his own now. And so Weisselberg has some decisions to make. Does he provide information that is important to prosecutors, or is he willing to actually stay silent and probably risk his own conviction and loss of freedom? That's a tough spot to be in, but I think what we've learned from Donald Trump in these situations is loyalty only goes one way, and Weisselberg would be wise to reflect on that.
And Don, this rally took place in the same state as the Surfside tragedy, and emergency crews are still obviously searching for survivors. That that search has been paused meanwhile while they do that controlled demolition. The rally was hours away from that spot, but the Washington Post reports that some Florida officials were worried it could be a distraction from the efforts there. Trump did hold a moment of silence, but what do you make of those optics?
It's really bad optics. From day one, ever since he descended down the staircase at Trump Tower in 2015, one of the defining aspects of Trump's political career is that his advisors are extraordinarily incompetent. And we see that in just breaking the norms of decency in American politics. Whether or not you agree with the substance of his policy or the things he has to say, we see that he just has a junior varsity team of political advisors and people in his ear, along with his own just general selfishness. The guy is incredibly tone deaf and incredibly just, self-centered, such that it would never occur to him, a selfish him combined with a juvenile cast of characters advising him politically. Between those two factors, it would just never occur that this might be inappropriate while there are still bodies in that rubble.
Susan, quickly, last question to you. There was a notable absence at the rally, and that's Florida Governor and Trump ally Ron DeSantis. Obviously, he's been dealing with the Surfside tragedy. But what do you make of these former allies, now potential rivals?
Well, we'll see. But one thing that did stand out is if you look at where the governor was yesterday, he was reacting to a crisis. He was doing his job. He was looking that he was in control of a situation. And Donald Trump was on a mad rant. When people start looking at the candidates for 2024, this is actually going to be something that helps Ron DeSantis. That being said, Ron DeSantis better watch his back because Donald Trump will turn on him in a heartbeat.
All right, Susan DelPercio, Don Calloway, David Jolly, thank you all so much for being with us today. Good to see you all. Breaking news on our top story, what we know about the planned demolition at the site of the collapse in Surfside, Florida. New insight from an engineer next.